Hey friends, happy Saturday morning. It is going to be a beautiful, beautiful day. Just wanted to share something that was on my heart this morning, something that I hope not only blesses you, but I hope it inspires you to be courageous and to be bold and to share the gospel, the good news of the gospel, and to speak truth like you never have before. You know, we all saw what happened on Wednesday. We saw the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk, who died for speaking the truth, for standing 10 toes to the ground and always sharing his faith. And 2 months before he died, he was asked, Charlie, what would you like to be remembered for? And Charlie said, for my courage and always speaking my faith. And that should be the goal of every believer, that we should be known, that our goal should when we go to meet our Maker, that we are remembered for courageously speaking our faith, for sharing the gospel no matter where we went and no matter what might happen to us, that we were courageous believers in Jesus Christ. And this is where Paul was, right? I mean, Paul was known as a courageous believer in Jesus Christ because Paul never backed down. And I was thinking about the words that he ended Colossians 4 and verse 18. Paul said, I, Paul, am writing this in my own handwriting. He wanted them to know that he had spoken the words, someone had written them down, but they were indeed his words. But before he ended it, he said, remember my chains. And then he said, may the grace of God be with you. May God's grace be with you. But what he was telling them, what he was imparting to him, knowing that these could possibly be some of his last words, he was saying, remember that everything that happened to me has only further advanced the gospel. This was something he said in Philippians 1:12, that just, I want to remind you that whatever has happened to me, all that's happened to me has only further advanced the gospel. And this is why Paul said, remember my chains, so that we would have the strength and the courage, knowing that no matter what we go through in this life, trials, tribulations, persecution, whatever it was, if we would stand 10 toes to the gospel and never waver in our faith, that everything we do will only serve to further the gospel. You know, Genesis 50:20 in the story of Joseph, you know, he said what the enemy intended for evil, God meant for good, for the saving of many lives, because Joseph stayed faithful and many lives were saved. That's always the way it works with the enemy. For those who stay faithful to Jesus Christ, it may look like the enemy will prosper, but they don't. In the end, God is always victorious. But we have to stand firm and we have to stand courageous, because that way when people look at us, they're saying, my goodness, if they're willing to die for their faith, there must be something to it. And then they're inspired to seek Jesus Christ. You know, and I can only think about this morning too. I was thinking about some of Paul's last words, you know, in 2 Timothy 4 and starting in verse 6, Paul said, you know, even now I am being poured out as a drink offering. The time of my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness that the righteous judge will award to me on that day. But not only to me, but to all those who long for his glorious appearing. Guys, this is a promise for every believer, that if we stand firm and we remember our chains, that no matter what happens on this earth, if we will stay faithful, keep our hearts set on Jesus Christ, keep our minds on Jesus Christ, knowing that the only thing that we can take with us when we leave this world is people. We do our part in making heaven full, and we do it by standing 10 toes to the gospel, being courageous, being bold, and sharing, just sharing the good news. You know, because somebody said the other day, I heard someone say, hey, who's going to follow in Charlie Kirk's shoes? I think it was Pastor Jack. And he said, everybody. We all are. He's passed the torch. So let's courageously go out into the world and share the good news of the gospel, so that like Paul and Charlie, that we will be remembered for our courage, for always sharing the faith, no matter what. Because I tell you what, in the end, the only thing that we should long to hear, and the only person we should long to please, is Jesus Christ. So when that day comes, when our time of departure is near, and remember, he said departure, which means there was definitely a destination. This was a journey. The one that he ended here he would take his first step in heaven. But this is a deal, and if we follow Jesus Christ the way that we're supposed to, boldly declaring the gospel everywhere that we go, when we depart this world and we reach our final destination, we will hear those words that Charlie heard: well done, good and faithful servant, enter into my rest. Guys, I really, really hope that blesses you. I'm going to finish up my run and get off to spend the day with my sweet Larry. It's going to be a great day.